And I'm live. Yeah. I keep waiting for it to come up and it says going live, going live, going live. And then it comes up and it says you're live. And yes, I am. I'm getting my hair arranged here. Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Yeah. Good morning. It is, well, I won't say it's misty and it's raining, but it's not cold. It's actually 42 degrees outside. I actually checked the weather before I got online. Um, Yesterday and today and tomorrow is actually going to be in the 40s. They're talking about it getting up into the mid 40s tomorrow. Yeah, schizophrenic holiday weather here. Yesterday, it was like being stuck in a real life version of Stephen King's The Mist. Seriously, you could not see anything out my window. It was just completely clouded up because the temperature went from like 20 to 45 yesterday. It really was. It's weird. So, I have things I want to talk about. Probably the first thing I should mention is I think I might have a bit of good news about the job front. I've been sending in applications. And most of the stuff I'm looking at now, I'm just sending in applications for like administrative assistants and stuff like that. Give me $15 an hour, I'll take it. But a while back, I applied for a job with the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth. I forget. They get pissy about that. And a consulting firm was representing me. And in order to do that, I had to sign this form that's basically you're saying, okay, you can represent me, and you're the only ones that can represent me. And I hadn't heard anything else. The only thing I had heard was they were actually still taking, they were looking at candidates up until last Thursday, the 13th. So I hadn't heard anything. I'd actually submitted my resume like end of November. It was right after Thanksgiving. Well, anyway, today, it might have come last night, but today I received a notice from the same consulting firm, which was basically like, we want you to re-sign this form so that you are reconfirming that we are representing you, which leads me to believe that the reason they're doing that is because the state got back to them and said, we want to look at your candidate. So they're negotiating, times and shit like that. My guess is they're going to want to start interviewing next week and right after Christmas, and probably put somebody in place right after the first of the year, which would be the 2nd of January. If I remember correctly, the job was for like 6 to 9 months, and it might be extended out to the end of the year. I'll take it. It would help me pay off some of my bills, and at the same time, I can apply for Social Security. If it looks like the job's only going to go to the end of the year and they're not going to renew my contract, I'll apply for Social Security over the summer and start collecting Social Security. I've had enough. And then look for maybe like a part-time job making $15 an hour, something like that. Because data processing is starting to just, it's pissing me off. I'm not going to lie. I'm tired of all the crap I got to go through with data processing and IT. So, keeping my fingers crossed that I'm going to hear something on that, because again, like I said, they wouldn't be sending me that form to re-sign if they somehow didn't believe that they needed to represent me. If they weren't representing me, they could care less. So I think I might have been picked to be one of the candidates who's going to be looked at. We'll see. Let's see if they sent anything back. Nope, Nothing came back. So let me double check. When did they send that out last night? Yeah, I know I'm doing this. I shouldn't do this. When did they send that? They actually sent it out this morning. Yeah, it was actually. So there it was. They sent it out this morning. Yeah. There you go. We'll see what happens. So, what am I going to talk about today? I have something to talk about. It wasn't what I was going to talk about last week, and I'm actually thinking I'm going to do a separate video on that during the week. Yeah, I know. I'm going to do a video during the week. Oh my God. Yeah, I probably should because I'm running out of stuff to binge. Let me see. I was watching on Netflix. I was watching Pine Gap, which is a 6-part miniseries, I guess you could call it. That was a joint American/Australian production. Unless you're like really a spy nerd, it's probably not the thing you would get into. It is rather lumberous. And there's a lot of spy terminology that's used, especially modern spy terminology, that if you are not familiar with it, but I am, because I've read up on this shit, you're just going to get kind of lost. And it helps to know a little bit about that terminology because you get a good feel for what's actually going on. And Pine Gap is an actual real facility in Australia. It's outside of Alice Springs in the middle of the country in the outback. And it's a joint listening post, I guess you could say. Both the Australians and the Americans use it to gather intelligence, most of which is gathered on China and Russia, mostly on China these days. So, but yeah, it's not for everyone. It's kind of like if you're into spy nerd stuff, yeah, you'll get it. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there going. And I watched another Australian production. This was the first Netflix Australian production called Tidelands, which the premise is it's a bunch of people, mostly women, but a few guys, who are the offsprings of sirens. And if we know, your mythology and shit like that, sirens/mermaids. Yeah, they're kind of like almost the same. A lot of people, sirens are actually supposed to be different types of creatures according to Greek mythology, but a lot of people also say, well, they were mermaids as well. So a lot of guys getting killed. Yeah, the siren song is used. It's an 8-part series, and the siren song gets used a few times. So guys get lured off to their deaths and drown, and I don't know if they're eaten. That's really what mermaids used to do. Mermaids used to, they were the sirens who would lure guys to their death with their beauties and their wonderful voices, and then they'd eat them. Yeah, watch for us mermaids. We'll eat you. Would I recommend it? It was okay. I actually watched all 8 episodes yesterday because I had nothing else going on. And I was drinking. I will say that. I was drinking yesterday. So, I was drinking a little bit during the day. But it's like half and half. It was an interesting story for most of the part. But the biggest problem with it was it really could have been about 2 episodes shorter. And the main plot actually revolved around drug dealing, when really I wanted to know more about, the sirens and mermaids and shit like that. And they definitely left it open for a second season. I mean, you could tell just the way it ended. It was like, oh Christ, they and ended on kind of a major cliffhanger. Pine Gap got ended the same way, so they're leaving them both open for second seasons. An argument I had seen about Tidelands was that Netflix somehow got around the Australian content law, and it's sort of like what they have in Canada. Australia has it as well, is that 10%, at least 10% of your production has to involve Australian nationals. And apparently they got around that somehow. So there was some arguments about that. I know it was funny. During one tour that Genesis went on, they have to do the same thing. Whenever they come to play when someone comes to play in Australia, they have to bring in 10% of their crew. And they said, well, instead of actually bringing on a crew, they brought on a string section to accompany them on several songs. So they had like this string section that would play during some of their songs when they were on their Australian tour. That was back in the 90s. Which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, we'll see what happens if Netflix gets dinged on that again. I mean, they just paid $100 million for all the seasons of Friends, which is money well spent. I'm not a fan of Friends. Too much homophobia, too much transphobia, too much fat shaming, too much of a white fantasy of really kind of like awful people living in rent-controlled apartments, huge rent-controlled apartments in New York City. When I know people who actually live in New York City who talk about, struggling to live in a pretty small apartment. And, some of the Friends cast had apartments big enough to house entire families. What are you going to do? But that's neither here nor there. I never have liked the show. I know a lot of people are of the opinion, Friends, it was a good show. No, it wasn't good back when it was on, and it has not aged well. So I'm sorry. I feel the same way about Seinfeld too. So, but yeah, my recommendations are sort of like with those two. If you want to watch them, watch them. If you get bored with them, you'll get bored with them. There's nothing I can say about that. So what's the important news of the week? Well, let's see. What haven't I talked about? Well, it's not writing. No, I'm still waiting on a friend of mine to get done with her editing and stuff. And we'll talk about publishing after the first of the year. Let's hope. But Derby. Yeah, Derby. Anything happen interesting? Let me just set the stage. Last week, I have 3 practices a week. And for one of the practices, it's a morning practice. So you can probably figure out what day I'm talking about. And that morning before I got ready, I woke up and I had actually been crying. I came out of a dream crying. This is not the first time that's happened. I've had it happen more than a few times. And what had actually happened was the dream I was having was I was dreaming I was at my team's after party. And if you want to know what an after party is, it's like after a bout. Players go out and they start drinking, they have food, and they converse and everything else. This is essentially you blow off steam after you've been out, slamming bodies on the ring floor for an hour. Because we're not allowed to drink for 24 hours before a bout. That's actually not league rules. That's actually the sanctioning body rules, that you're not supposed to drink 24 hours before a bout. Some teams actually will say not for 48, especially if they have a bout on Sunday. They don't want you to get blind ass drunk on a Friday night and suffer through the hangover all day Saturday. They want you to hydrate and eat properly and everything else. So I woke up, I was crying because in this dream, they were having the after party, and I was sitting over in a corner because I tend to do that. And one of my teammates got up and she said, "Hey, you played with us. You played today. Come over and sit with us." And I said, "I didn't think this would ever happen." And I woke up and I was crying. Why would I be crying? Well, because, your brain on depression is telling you shit like, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. It was really kind of an emotional moment between realizing that was coming true, but realizing at the same time it may not. Because with depression, everything is like always jacking your ass. It is. This is the one thing I hate about depression. Is like, when people say this is one of the reasons why we can't have nice things, depression is one of those reasons, because it's almost like it's there to pull you down, even though you may not feel down. You get triggered by the smallest things with depression. And some of them are kind of weird in terms of, you'd think, wow, that's a great dream. And I come out of the dream and I'm sobbing because of a combination of, yes, it happened and I'm really happy that it happened in a dream. But part of my brain is also telling me, yeah, it's just a dream, loser. It's not going to happen, I hate that shit. I do. So one of the things I do before my morning practice is I drive into Lancaster early and I have breakfast. There's a crepe place, Rachel's Cafe and Creperie. 2 locations in Lancaster, but I usually eat at the one on Walnut Street. And I've actually got like my own table there when I come in, because there's one person, she always takes care of me when I'm there. So. And I told her, I was having a bad morning and all this other shit. And I ordered a steak and egg crepe. And then I said, I think I need like a little something special today. So I actually ordered a dessert crepe. I ordered a caramelized apple with this like caramel coating on it. It was really good. And I've said, well, what I'll do is I'll eat part of it and then take the rest home. So I'll have dessert tonight. And before I left, she comes over to me, the person who takes care of me. Her name is Bray. And she said, your bill's been taken care of. Someone said, they paid for it because they see you in here all the time, and they took care of it. Now, I'm going to ask her tomorrow. I'm going to ask Bray tomorrow, because I have this sneaking suspicion that she was actually the one who paid. And I think she did it because she knew I was not having a good morning. I'll find out tomorrow, because I'll see her. Yeah, I'll find out tomorrow. There's a couple of other things I want to find out from her as well. So, I think so. But one of the things I was doing while I was driving to Lancaster is I kept actually saying to myself aloud that, I'm not going to let my depression get the better of me today. I'm not going to let it get the better of me today. It's just not going to happen. I've gone into practice before depressed. It's not fun. It fucks with your mind. I'm sorry. It is. It's your brain screwing with your brain, basically. And I just said, I'm not going to let it get the better of me. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to let my depression get me. And I actually was saying that over and over for about 10 minutes. So when I left Rachel's to go to practice, it's like 5, 6, 7 minute drive, something like that. Not a lot of traffic on Sunday morning in Lancaster. The Thursday before, we did 2 27.5s, because the week before that, we had instruction from our head ref on rules, which actually took most of Wednesday night practice. So on Thursday night, we had 2 27.5s, where we had to skate 27 laps 2 times, once at the beginning of practice and once at the end. And I should say I didn't do well compared to how I have been doing. In both instances, I basically just cleared a 25.5. And part of it was I was tired as hell and everything else, and I wasn't pushing myself. Which sometimes, mentally you get in that place. It was a really tiring practice, and the heat was on so high in the overlook that night. I mean, everybody was complaining about it, about how hot it was and how dry it was and everything else. And it just, one of my teammates, actually, she started gasping for air when we were doing our 27.5 the second time, because she was having trouble breathing, because it was just like the heat was almost oppressive, which is unusual because during the summer it gets real humid and hot in there. I found that out. There's a reason they call this place the Dutch oven. And it has nothing to do with getting under the blankets. Not that kind of Dutch oven. So anyway, one of the things I've been saying on the way to practice, when I've been doing my morning practice, even when I'm doing my evening practices, is like, this could be the day I do my 27.5. This could be the day I could pull it off today. Because I've been getting there. I've been, every practice, it seems like every 27.5 or every 5-minute skate that I've done since the end of November, since the first time I actually did 25.5 laps, I haven't done fewer than 25 laps ever. And I had 3 instances where I'd already won over 26 laps. So, I'm getting there. Right? And I was like, this could be the day. So we get geared up, and it was actually pretty nice. And I had, my protein fix, I had my caffeine fix, I had my sugar fix. So I was ready to roll. And yeah, right off the bat, we decide, we're going to do 5 minutes of skating. Because depending on who the head coach is on that day, some of the coaches like to do where you skate 27 laps. That's it. And you get timed on it. Others will say skate for 5 minutes and see how many laps you can do. There's pros and cons on both of those. The good pro on doing 27 laps each time is that you do 27 laps each time. That's the thing. You get used to doing 27 laps, so you have a feeling of what it's like to actually skate that many. The con to me is that sometimes you don't actually know where you're at in terms of time. So, you really have nothing to gauge at times how fast you're going, where you're at, that sort of thing. With skating 5 minutes, the one pro in it is usually the coach will call out midway, which is 2.5 minutes, and then when you have a minute to go. And usually when you're at midway, if you know how many laps you've actually skated at midway, it gives you a pretty good idea of what your pace is like. So, like, if you're at 13.5 laps when midway is called, you're on pace to do 27 laps exactly. And when 1 minute is called, you have a minute left. If you have done more than 22 laps, let's say like you're at 22.5, you just need to do like 4.5 laps in a minute. And that's easy to do because you're talking about 15 seconds a lap to do that. And at 27.5 speed, if you hit 22 laps, you can do 5 laps in 55 seconds if you're going about 11 seconds a lap, which is really the pace you need to set for a 27.5. So, if you're just passing 22 and they call out 1 minute to go, it's like, I need to keep this pace because I've got to do 5 laps. So you kind of push yourself. The big con of it, however, is you don't always skate 27 laps. If you skate 23 laps after 5 minutes, that's it. All you've ever skated is 23 laps, and you've missed out on those last 4. And sometimes those last 4 can, it sets the tone for knowing how to push yourself. So like I said, there's pros and cons to doing it. And we were doing a 5-minute skate that day. So what I did was I actually set myself up half a lap behind one of my teammates who I know is fast. And her and I have been for a while clicking off basically kind of the same lap times, so I knew she could do it. So what I did was when we started out, I chased her. I literally chased her down after 8 or 9 laps. That's how fast I was going. I closed the half a lap between us and chased her down. And I did at one point try to pass her, and then I realized, she's going real fast. And if I try to pass her, I'm probably just going to wear myself out trying to put on all that extra energy to get past her. And I could end up screwing her up as well. And I don't want to do that. Something bad could happen. I could collide with her. We both go down. We're both screwed. I don't want to be responsible for that. So I backed off. But I backed off and I said, if I keep her about 30, 40 feet ahead of me the entire time, which is basically like the front stretch. So it'd be like, as I'm hitting the jammer line, she's hitting the pivot line. Or if she's 40 feet ahead, she's going into turn 1 as I'm hitting the jammer line. But I'm never letting her get more than, not letting her get a half a lap or more ahead of me. So I just chased her. They call that being a rabbit, And some teams will actually tell you it's not a bad idea to have a rabbit out on a track when you're doing this. Because if you have a teammate who can do this, they set the pace and you go after them. And so you rabbit after. They're your rabbit. So I chased her down and I kept chasing her. And I was going pretty fast. I had absolutely no idea how fast I was going. In fact, I actually thought at one point that the pace wasn't that great. Seriously, I did. I was like, it doesn't feel like we're really going that fast. And my form, it was acceptable. One of the things I did was I got low and I was getting my push-offs most of the time. My crossovers most of the time. So I was getting good push-offs. I was staying low, so I was really pushing hard. And the coach called out halfway. And now, see, I carry a lap counter with me. It's not really a lap counter. It's a pitch counter. I went to Dick's and I bought a pitch counter. So every time I do a lap, I click it off. So I have this thing on my hand here wrapped around my finger that's telling me how many laps I'm doing. Because it's easier than keeping track of that shit in your head. I think I've only messed up like once or twice where I wasn't sure if I had clicked off too many laps or if I hadn't clicked off a lap at all. In fact, that happened the prior practice when I was going through on our last 27.5, and I was like, I don't remember if I'm on the right amount of laps. So somebody was counting my laps, and as I came around, I yelled out to my teammate. I said, "What lap am I on?" And she said, "This is 25." And I looked at my counter. I was like, "Okay." No, she said it was 24. It was like 24. And I was like, okay. And I had 25. So I had clicked it one too many times. So I didn't click that lap and I waited to come around the next time, let it go. So when our coach called out halfway, I looked at my lap counter. And I was actually about 30 feet beyond my starting point. I was coming up. I usually always start on a jammer line. And so I was like almost on top of the pivot line when I checked my lap when she called halfway. And my lap counter said 14. If you're doing the math and you're 2.5 minutes into a 5-minute skate and you've skated 14 laps, if you maintain that pace, you're on pace to do 28 laps. And I actually said aloud, holy shit, I'm on pace for 28. Now, once before, when I skated 26 and a half laps, I was at 13 and a half laps exactly when time was called, halfway was called. So I was on pace for 27, but this was on pace for 28, which meant even if I backed off slightly on my pace, I could still get 27. That's why I was like, holy shit, I'm on pace. And even my coach told me later, she said when she marked off 14 laps and then called halfway, she knew I was on pace to get this. And she was like, oh, I hope just keep the pace, keep the pace, keep the pace. So I kept pushing, and I kept pushing hard. And I think one of the things that really helped me besides being low and, getting some of my form the proper way was I had cleaned my bearings and my wheels the Friday before. So they were fast and I was sticking to the floor real well. That helps, really. When your bearings get dirty, it slows you down. When your wheels get crud on them, it slows you down. So I always try to keep that stuff clean. So I kept going, and I crossed the line, crossed my starting point at one time when she called out a minute to go. And I looked down and I had just cleared 22 laps. And that was the thing, what I was just talking about. Minute to go, 22 laps. I'm averaging about 11 seconds a lap. I'm like, I can do this. I actually did think to myself, I can do 5 laps. So I just kept going. I mean, I think the last couple of laps, I kind of sprinted as hard as I could. I know on one lap I did. And I came across and I clicked off my lap counter and looked down at it, and it said 27. And I had not heard time called. So I kept going. I did let out, I was like, woo! Like that. And I came up on I was coming up on my other teammate who was also going, and she had just cleared 26 and a half laps and time had not been called. And I screamed out to her, you can do this, go, go, go. And she did. She crossed the line and she was about 15 or 20 feet beyond the line when they called time. So she got her 27.5, and the person who was counting off her time even said so. She goes, you got it, like that. And I came around, and I was at the halfway point when they called. So I went around and I said, I got it too, didn't I? And the person actually was the coach who was counting me off. She says, yeah, you got it. It was like 27 and a half. So I just like collapsed on the floor and laid down. I was breathing as hard as I could and laughing. And then when I got it, people came over and I was like, woo, and high fives and stuff like that. And I went over and congratulated my teammate for getting it as well. I told her, I said, that was really great. You did great. And I actually told her, I said, I was chasing you around the track. I said, I chased you around the track to get my 27.5. So that's it. I got my 27.5. I actually did 27 and a half laps. Estimated time on that was 4 minutes, 54.5 seconds. Really 5 seconds when it all works out, or 20. You can say 454.6 if you don't want to be so exacting. And it's estimated time, just based on doing 27 and a half laps in 5 minutes. Yeah, my lap average was 10.9 seconds a lap. That's pretty good. I have been struggling to get that for a year and a half, almost a year and a half. When did I do my first one? Probably in July of 2017. So yeah, a year and a half I've been struggling to get my 27.5. And I finally got it. Yeah. Now, the thing is, this is what comes up. And it was kind of brought up even my last practice is that, well, once you do 127.5, they kind of expect you now to, do it all the time. It's consistency. You want to be consistent. And Thursday night, when we did our 5 minutes of skating, my other teammate who actually got her 27.5, she got 27 laps again. What did I get? I got 26.5. Partially because there were a couple of moments in the skate where I didn't push myself as hard as I should have. And that's on me, not kind of on me. That is on me. It was like after it was over and I'm driving home, it was like, you could have got 27 laps. You could have, literally speaking, I could have gotten 27 laps if I had pushed myself in a couple of different spots on the track while doing it. She got 27 laps. I would have gotten it too. I had 26.5, which didn't make me feel bad. But at the same time, it was sort of like, yeah, I could have got 27. And that last practice we had was really kind of a tough practice. I mean, we busted our butts. A lot of hitting was involved. A lot of form stuff, a lot of pace line stuff. There was a lot of skating, a lot of stuff that involved us working hard. Even a bit of a lot of cardio work too. So at the end of the night, because it was at the end of the night, it was the very last thing we did to do a 27.5, and I got 26.5 laps. And I was like, but I could have got 27. When I'm driving home, I'm thinking this. It's like, I could have got 27 because I didn't push myself hard enough. And it brought up something that happened while we were doing one of our hitting drills. We were doing a thing where you have to chase down a blocker, essentially, and you have to hit them off the track. And we were doing full body hits. And the first one up was one of my coaches. So I came at her and I hit her, but I'll admit, it really wasn't that good of a hit. And I don't mean like the form was bad or anything like that. I mean, I just didn't hit her hard. And she actually looked at me, she's like, what the hell is that? She goes, I know you can hit harder than that. I was like, yeah, I know. I felt pretty embarrassed about that because I was like, yeah, that was kind of a lame hit. And it's not like I'm going to hurt her if I hit her hard. So the next time I got a chance to hit her, I did go into her pretty hard. And she said, form was off, and I could, form was a little off, but I could feel your aggression. I could feel that aggression starting to come out. That's what you need. So that was one of the other things I thought about when I was going home is like, in a month, literally in a month, I'm going to be in a position where I'll likely be trying out for a team. We have 3 teams in our league, and I'll likely be trying out for a team. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you can't take it easy. You're going to have to push yourself. If you want to get on a team, you have to show your teammates and your coaches that you can do this. So you have to work on that controlled aggression. You're pushing yourself and you're pushing yourself hard, but you're not pushing it so much that you become dangerous to other people. It's controlled aggression. You're not just like completely losing your shit and just throwing yourself at people. You're actually using it in a constructive fashion. And that's what you need when you're doing hitting. You need controlled aggression. You want to go in and you want to knock somebody out or you want to knock somebody down, but you don't want to do it so hard that you take yourself out of the picture or you hurt yourself or you hurt them. It's controlled. You hit them out and then you're still in a position to go after somebody else or even run that person back if you hit them out of bounds. And you have to be under control to be able to do that. And that's one of the things they look for when you're playing. If you can't control yourself when you're hitting other people, you're not a good hitter. If you're doing it dangerously, you're not a good hitter. You're not going to be effective as a player. At least that's how I look at it. I don't want to be that out of control player who is just like slamming into people and hoping something takes. It's kind of like, I'm throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. I'm throwing myself at bodies and hoping, I do something. I don't want to do that. And the same thing with my 27.5. When I got 26 and a half laps that night, it was like, if you had pushed yourself in those couple of places where you knew you backed off, you would have gotten 27 laps. And again, the fact it came at the end of the night and I still got 26 and a half laps surprised me. And it made me think I can do better. I could have gotten 27 and a half laps again, which really, now that I've got 127.5 in the books, the idea is it's sort of like our coach said that night, you want to get that repetition, and the thing I'm thinking about now is I really want to get 28. I really want to hit 28 laps. I do. Just to show it can be done. But I do. I want to get 28 laps. I want to be that fast. I want to be faster than that. I don't know that I'll ever get 30 laps in 5 minutes, but 28 or more, yeah. See, I want to play pivot. I know I'm going to start out probably as a blocker, but pivots are blockers. But I want to learn how to get up and get fast and get through packs and become a pivot. So in case I ever have the star pass to me, I can score some points. We'll see. So that's it. Got it in there. There's already been some discussion about my derby name, because Tier 2 testing is coming up in a week and a half. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to pass Tier 2. I don't see it as being a problem. And I'll go on to Tier 3. And Tier 3 would start up right after the first of the year, because Tier 2 testing is going to take the entire week after Christmas. So if I pass out of there, and I shouldn't say if, it's when I pass out of Tier 2, I would go into Tier 3 and I would begin working with the vets for probably, the entire month of January is really going to be see how I'm doing at a level where I'm working with vets, where I'm working at a higher level and taking hits like it's the real thing, and having to push yourself to be able to keep up with these people, who are in great physical shape and who understand the game and are trying to make an evaluation on what you know about the game as well. So, that's the thing. It's like, if you want to get on a team, you have to show that you can keep up with everybody else on the team and that you know what you're doing. You know the rules. You know how to get into position. You know how to block. You know how not to block. And that's what I want to do. So, my real goal is hoping that I'll be out of Tier 3 by the end of January and be certified to play. And maybe even be on a team. We'll see. I did renew my WFDA insurance, and so I'm good for 2019. Come what may, I'm good for 2019 as a Derby player. I have my insurance. I actually have 2 sets of insurance, but I have my insurance now through WFDA. And I was also informed that once I'm out of tier 3 and once I've been cleared to play, you know, the league actually pays for half your insurance. So it was like, whatever you want to do, they can reimburse you or they can put it toward dues. And I was like, I'd rather just have, the half that the league was going to pay go toward my dues for a month. That would work for me. That would actually work for me better in that I just wouldn't have to pay dues for that month. I'd be cool about it. And so, but yeah, discussing a derby name. Discussing my derby name, and one of my coaches actually contacted me. And she says, "Do you have your derby name registered and all this other stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." And the reason for that is my next practice is the 29th practice I will have attended. Out of 29, I have not missed a practice. So once you hit 32 practices, once you've completed 32 practices, which I will do in 4 practices, you are considered an official member of the Dutchland Derby Rollers. And I'll have to find out if I'll be able to begin using my derby name now then. Because if I can, that happens right around Christmas time. And that would be like the best Christmas present I could have ever gotten. Really. I can't tell you how much that would mean to me. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. We'll see. But yeah, my derby name is registered with WFDA. I did that when I actually bought my insurance when was it, July. I bought my insurance. I had to do that because it was a requirement under HARD. From when you started hitting, you had 30 days to buy your insurance, and I just went out and bought it. So, and then for Dutchland, you have to keep your insurance current. And the students who are in the TOTS now who are going to move into tier 3 will have to get, basically I think we're all going to have to get insurance. So, but I think you have to have WFDA insurance in most leagues to be able to play anyway. That's almost like a requirement. Yeah. So I've got mine. I'm good through 2019. It even goes, if you go out and look at my profile, it says future, and it says until December 31st, 19. So I'm good. I'm paid up. I'm ready to go. And here's hoping, because now that 27.5 is out of the way, and now that I'm actually pushing myself to get another one, and I will get another one. Like I said, last practice I should have had 27. Next 27, I want to get 28. But one of the things I had stated was one of my stated goals for when I came on to the TOT program was that I would get my 27.5 before the end of 2018. And I did. Now I'm kind of hoping I get, now I'm hoping I get another 27 before the end of 2018, which I know I will. 3 would actually be pretty nice. We'll see. Again, this is all about pushing yourself. It's all about controlled aggression. It's all about, showing that you can actually do this stuff. And that's what I need to do from this point on. It's show them, show my teammates and show my coaches that I can do this stuff. So that when the time comes, I actually will do this stuff. That's really what's important. That's the thing I've been working towards for a year and a half. And I remember one time saying there was no way I was going to stay in Derby for 2 years trying to certify. And I've actually stayed in Derby for a year and a half trying to certify. And I'm now literally, I'm actually like this freaking close to getting to the point where I could play, because the one thing I'm no longer is that student, that skater who says, all I need to do is my 27.5, which I said for the longest goddamn time. All I need to do is my 27.5. Guess what? I don't need to do it anymore. Now it's a matter of just doing it, to do it, you know. And it really is kind of weird because you don't want to lay off now. You don't want to go, well, I did 25 laps, I'm good. Now 26 is becoming the new, low benchmark. And there will be some point in the future where it'll be like 27 laps is your low benchmark. You want to consistently hit that every freaking time. Because you're skating along and you hit 25 and you go, I was just taking it easy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person anymore. And I'm not going to. That's going to be the thing. I'm not going to be that person. So that's my goal. Push yourself. Control aggression. Show everyone you can do this. Because you know what? No one else is going to do it for me. No one else is going to do those hits for me. That's me. And I don't ever want to have someone look at me again when I do a hit and go, what the hell was that? I don't want to have that happen because I did. I just kind of like, what the hell was that? Yeah. I don't want to do that anymore. So. Tier 2. I'm going to get through it. Like I said, there may be one or two things I may get 2s on. I think most of my stuff is going to be 3s and 4s. That should be enough to pass me. And the 2 stuff I know I'll need work on. And I'm actually, one of the things I'm working on is I'm actually doing stretches to try to turn my heels out better. In fact, I do them here sometimes. I'll actually put my skates on and get up against the wall and stretch my legs so that I can turn my heels out better. And it's getting better. I actually caught myself doing a plow the other day, and all of a sudden I was like, I started feeling myself coming to a stop real fast. And I bounced out of it because it was just like, whoa. I didn't realize I was going to stop that fast. So that's getting there too. We'll see what happens. But I rambled on enough about my skating, my derby. But just know, I live in a universe now where I actually can skate 27 laps in 5 minutes. And I will do it again. And I will keep doing it. And that's what's going to be important because that's what's needed. Yeah. And who knows where it goes from there? We'll see. Okay. Take care. I'll talk to you next week.